Allow me to paint a scene for you. Not literally, I'm a terrible artist, but I'll substitute my lack of technical skill with some fancy computer doodles. The scene is one featuring a premier ATP 250 tennis tournament, the New York Open, an event which in its third year of operation has ironed out all the issues and kinks a brand new tournament is expected to have. Operating within the freshly refurbished Nassau Coliseum just east of New York City, a location known to attract magnitudes of tennis fans every year for the US Open, the event features tennis's top professionals battling it out on a unique surface never seen on the ATP Tour: black tennis courts, a surface praised by viewers and players alike for its ease of tennis ball visibility and consistent bounces. From a tennis fan's perspective, this brand new tournament appears fantastic in every way imaginable, except for one issue. There are no fans. Hardly anyone has shown up. A quick scan around the Coliseum during an average day match reveals a swarm of empty seats, where in contrast to the packed, rowdy, and excitable US Open crowds down the road, you could hear a pin drop throughout the barren Long Island Stadium. With recent news reporting that the struggling event has officially been canceled to be moved and rechristened as the Dallas Open in 2022, the 3-year-old New York Open solidifies itself in the record books as perhaps the shortest ever lived ATP tournament. Now kids, for a fixture hardly anyone will remember 10 years from now, allow me to officially send the tournament off into the sunset with the story of why the New York Open was a total failure in almost every way imaginable. So, the New York Open. For an event with such a short lifespan, you may be surprised to learn that its roots date all the way back to 1975, when the indoor tournament was originally conceived under a different name, Memphis Open. As one of the longest-running tournaments on the ATP Tour, the Memphis Open had a storied history of hosting many of the sport's biggest names during the American tennis heyday of the 80s and 90s, claiming 9 former ATP year-end number ones among its past champions. Despite the championship's past success, the new millennium brought with it financial woes for a number of reasons. Not only was the city of Memphis's socioeconomic status beginning to sag far behind that of other nearby boomtowns, but American tennis itself seemed to be heading the way of the dodo. Frankly, modern European tennis stars had no interest in making Memphis part of their schedules. Upon the owner's failure of securing a major sponsor to inject much-needed cash flow, the entire tournament was sold off in 2015 to a live sports and entertainment company named GF Sports, who saw an opportunity to not just save the event, but completely revitalize it. The first step? Moving it to good old... well, kind of. More precisely, Uniondale, New York, a suburban town located a bit east of New York City. Why? Well, GF Sports' parent company, conveniently located in nearby Manhattan, GF Capital, just happened to have a close relationship with Brooklyn Sports and Entertainment, who oversaw programming and operations for Uniondale's Nassau Coliseum, an aging venue that had just undergone a 2-year, $160 million renovation and was eager for tenants. Though investors initially regarded this somewhat remote venue known for its history as a concert venue and NHL hockey stadium an odd location for a tennis tournament, organizers were quick to remind those concerned that Long Island, New York not only previously called itself home to the Hamlet Cup, an ATP 250 tournament held for years in nearby Comac, but the Nassau Coliseum itself contained a bit of tennis history, as the World Team Tennis franchise team New York Sets called the venue home throughout the mid-70s. With the final determination that the new 14,000-seat stadium could accommodate for future growth not possible in Memphis, all parties signed on a 10-year deal to revive the old tournament, but with the new fitting name, New York Open. To fit the gritty aesthetic, GF Sports had one final announcement meant to really solidify the event's new identity, a brand new court color never seen on the ATP Tour. Or shall I say, a lack of court color. See, the organizers had one final challenge to overcome. For a venue playing year-round host to a variety of events, how do you create a memorable tennis surface that can be either installed or removed in under 24 hours? The color? That was the easy part. As for the surface, well, we know of grass, clay, traditional hard, and even carpet courts in many parts of the world. But what about wood? Yes, actual wood. Using a portable court system originally conceived for use in basketball, GF Sports worked with manufacturers to retool the setup for tennis, shipping in 460 pre-painted plywood panels days before the event to create 2 indoor professional show courts. And surprisingly, they worked. Players loved their bounce, television viewers loved their visibility, and for a quick moment on the inaugural opening day, everyone involved might have truly thought they had a real hit on their hands. In fact, first-year tournament director Josh Ripple said regarding his optimism towards future ticket sales, "We may soon competitively go to a Roger Federer. He may never want to play based on his schedule, but you can at least go to a Roger Federer and say, 'Listen, we can pay you, because we actually have the opportunity to be able to sell enough seats.'" And as the first matches commenced, everything truly looked perfect. That was, on court at least. Uh-oh. To say the New York Open had a disappointing first year would be an understatement. Swaths of empty seats greatly outnumbered attendees in virtually all matches. Crowd enthusiasm throughout the week was put on non-stop life support.
Clear.
And instead of wowing the nearby community with world-class tennis, the only noteworthy headline with enough life to escape the stadium was regarding a shouting match that took place between Americans Ryan Harrison and future top 10 player Donald Young, in which the latter insubstantially accused the former of hurling racist remarks mid-match. Though late-week matches would draw somewhat respectable crowds, the attendance tally for that year's men's final? 2,111. To put that figure into context, the Delray Beach Open, a tennis tournament of identical point caliber down in Florida, had to limit its 2021 daily attendance to only 2,000 people, or under 25% stadium capacity due to social distancing restrictions, as any normal day at that tournament sees 4 times the amount of fans. Now sure, a day of Florida tennis does sound fun, but wouldn't you rather spend a day trekking to the New York Open? In the middle of February? Oh, did I forget to mention that? While the timing might make sense considering the indoor aesthetic, New York is a place plagued by freezing temperatures and heavy snowfall in February, where people's minds at the time aren't on tennis, but instead the Super Bowl, Winter Olympics, and regular season NBA, NHL, and NCAA games. If afternoon attendance had already been sparse, midday crowds appeared downright anemic due to the absence of working adults, school-aged children, or those enjoying their February winter breaks down south. To make matters worse, in comparison to another similar tournament like the Hall of Fame Championships in Newport, Rhode Island, where the beautiful venue, museum, and central tourist town location make it a multi-day destination, the New York Open was simply a stadium in a working-class town surrounded by a highway, massive parking lot, and Marriott hotel. That's it. Its connection to New York City? Forget it. Manhattan was at least an hour's car ride away. In reference to the lackluster location, player Adrian Manarino summed up the experience, "I'm glad my girlfriend was here. Otherwise I would have killed myself." In response to dismal first-year revenue and ticket receipts, organizers reacted in subsequent years by slashing ticket prices, building high-priced box seats, and focusing more on community outreach in an attempt to inform locals that a professional tennis tournament even existed on Long Island, going as far as raffling off or straight-up giving away large quantities of tickets just to fill seats. In the end, though the tournament was undoubtedly doomed to fail on its own merits, it was the pandemic that ultimately shut down the event for good, with Nassau Coliseum Stadium operators closing the venue indefinitely in 2020 to reopen only when new investors were found to take over all operations. With GF Sports' recent announcement that the tournament would live on as the Dallas Open beginning in 2022, one has to ask regarding its 3-year New York residency, was it poor execution, poor planning, or simply just a poor idea? Frankly, all 3 and more. Where in Memphis the tournament could at least be considered a premier event, New York Open struggled to find its place in the crowded New York metro sports market, where most tennis fans were content to wait for the better players to arrive come August. Speaking of player quality, organizers found themselves fairly unlucky all 3 years when many top players who were paid appearance fees lost in early rounds, while lesser-known foreign players made deep runs. While great for professional tennis as a whole, 2019 qualifier and finalist Braden Schnurr and 2020 qualifier and semifinalist Jason Jung don't fill up stadiums quite yet. Even the stadium itself, with the tournament's somewhat deceiving signature tagline, "Home of the Black Court." While perhaps a first for an ATP event, the far more noteworthy Laver Cup established 1 year prior had already popularized the black court surface, with many even noting that New York's courts in comparison weren't even black, but gray. In the end, though higher-end ATP 500 tournaments and up are hard-pressed to ever fail or switch locations, ATP 250s, the lowest tier of pro tournaments on the main ATP Tour, often struggle to find the correct mix of identity and popularity to consistently succeed in smaller cities with lesser-known players, and the New York Open was no different. You know, to sum this whole video up, extremely stale ideas, fans expecting way more than what was delivered, and don't get me started with the terrible timing of how often I put out new videos. Oh, we're still talking about the tournament?